it's so much deeper. And I think after my surgeries, I started to understand that a little bit more. There is such a deeper meaning to all of the things that happen to us. There's always a way to come out of them better and stronger and a better person, but it's not easy.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Ashley, and I know it has been a couple months, but I'm excited to be back in this space again and super pumped to kick off season 2 with someone who inspires me on and off the tennis court. And she's starting the new year strong, coming off another quarterfinal appearance in the Australian Open, leading to a new career high singles ranking. Coming in at number 16 in the world right now. It's an honor to introduce her on this podcast. My longtime friend, Jessie Pegula. Jessie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. You killed that intro.
Thanks. But no, I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. I guess it's fair to say that I'm catching you in a rare in-between travel moment right now.
Yes, that is true. Came back from Australia, been home for about, 10 days, leaving a day pretty much. So, nice little break though. So no worries. Happy to be here and have fun talking about, whatever it is we're going to talk about.
Yeah. How are you doing after Australia? You started off again, just an incredible run, captured a doubles title and then finished top 8, in the Open for the second year in a row.
Yeah, it was interesting start. Obviously you were at my wedding. So that was kind of the end of my year last year was that. And then we got COVID. So it was kind of a weird, not weird, but I had like a couple months. So it was probably the longest I've gone without really, competing or playing in a while, it seemed like. So it definitely felt kind of weird going back to Australia because at the same time, obviously living in all this COVID protocols and stuff, it was a long year last year, but it also flew by. So by the time my coach and I got to Australia, we got there like December 29th or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I was just here like yesterday. So it was a weird kind of feeling throughout the year, like, a long year, had a nice break, but it just flies by so fast. So it was excited. I mean, I was excited to be back though, because of, I had good results. So it's always a good vibe going back to somewhere you've played well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, talking about 2021, you had such an insane year, seven or 8 top 10 wins. And again, you just keep going and keep climbing. So prior to Australia this year, then I guess when was the last match that you played? Because it has, like you're saying, it has been a while then. So then to come back and just start crushing it right away.
Indian Wells, which I did well. And then I went from Indian Wells straight to basically my wedding. And then it was I felt like kind of a whirlwind of like a lot of really good things happening because I did well in Indian Wells. Then we had like a really fun week in Asheville, North Carolina, where I got married, and then the wedding, and then coming home. And then we got COVID, which sucked because I was going to go play Fed Cup, but actually it wasn't too bad because it was the end of the year. So if I was, going to get it, I guess it was good kind of timing where I wasn't quarantined somewhere else. We were just at home. So it was nice to kind of take a break and unwind for a couple of weeks, but it seemed long. I guess it was like 2 months, I guess, before I played, which seemed like a long time. And it seemed like a long time too, because, with COVID, I didn't play for almost like 3 weeks, which is a long time for me. And it definitely felt weird. Like I definitely had to get back into the swing of things, I think. And, I lost my first 2 singles matches at the start of the year, and I definitely felt kind of off. So I'm glad I was able to kind of find my game again and my rhythm a little bit, obviously in Australia or Australian Open. So that was nice. And then, winning the doubles title, obviously, really helped to kind of, just be competitive, playing points. And obviously it's always good to win a tournament.
Heck yeah. Yeah. And I mean, talking about doubles too, you're also now top 50 in doubles, which is crazy. So is that something that, in all the tournaments you're trying to play in the doubles, I guess, what's it called? The doubles draw, right? As well each time. Do you think that helps then for your singles game?
It's definitely different, but I think at the same time, it's always great to have, you're getting matches and, you're in pressure situations, which I think is it's hard to get back when you haven't played because there's no way to really recreate that unless you're playing matches in tournaments. So it's one of those things where, sometimes it's hard to feel good in those pressure situations, and doubles definitely amplifies that. And I love playing doubles too. Like, I mean, I just love playing, like I just love to play tennis, so I'm one of those where I like to play doubles. Some girls, maybe don't want to spend as much energy because sometimes they are long days if you're playing both, especially if you're winning in both. You're playing singles and you're, waiting around all day to play doubles. And sometimes the days can get really long. But more or less, I definitely wanted to start doing better in doubles this year, like having some good results and stuff like that. So I enjoy playing it, but it's kind of different for everybody.
I mean, it's so fun just watching you. And I mean, I haven't been able to really check out too much of the double side, but of course, always seeing the highlights and
Yeah.
always super fun. Another thing too that I wanted to bring up was just how about the fan love now with COVID, I guess getting a little bit better. I mean, people are going crazy, jumping over seats, asking for your visor.
Oh my God, that was hilarious when you found that clip of the fan diving into the stands. No, it's been really cool. Like, I think I've said this maybe before when people have asked me like how different it is for me, because I mean, in the States, when we play, there's always an American, they always try to root for the Americans and stuff like that, I feel like. But when I started doing well, it was like total COVID year. So I didn't really experience playing in the bigger courts all the time, or, playing in the bigger courts and then having fans and stuff like that. So I would say last US Open, I started to kind of feel that a lot more, where I think it was most of the fans were allowed. So, I mean, I got put on like a really pretty big court and they're rooting for you. So that was a different experience that I haven't had before, where, you're walking out to the practice court or people want to watch your practices, or they're recognizing you more. And like, I definitely wasn't used to that until probably last US Open, where all of a sudden my ranking was up high and people watched me a lot during COVID and were like, oh my gosh, we're such big fans. And I just thought that was really cool, but definitely a different experience for me.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. I think it's only going to continue. I just want to provide a little bit of background here for those listening in. And so you and I know each other from way back in the day when we were just little kids
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh, played sports together for a bit of time and all the things. But my question is, and I'll put this into context, but when did you know that it was tennis that you wanted to go all in with? Because, I got to bring this up. What some people may not know is that you're actually an all-star baseball player. And you and I held it down on the Little League Dodgers team. And then the rest, was history. And now you're one of the best tennis players in the world. And I'm one of your biggest fans. So when did all that happen?
We really were. We were like, we played on we're selling ourselves short. We played softball, but we also played on we were the only two girls on the all boys baseball team. And we were by far the best players. And I remember my dad still tells these stories sometimes. He's like, we're out there. He was like throwing balls at us like we were like 16. He'd be like, you guys would go out there and you'd catch all those balls, and we'd do these drills, and all these other boys, they couldn't do anything, and you guys were the best players on the team. So that was an important moment. We stepped it up there. But no, I played, those sports. And then I remember we took tennis lessons after school. And I also started playing soccer a little bit when I moved down to South Carolina. But honestly, you might think it's crazy, but I feel like I was maybe 8 when I was or maybe 8 or 9 when I was like, okay, I'm going to be number 1 in the world. Like that was and I don't really know if I knew what that meant at the time. It's kind of a kid thing to say. It was just like what I thought I wanted and what I wanted to do and what I thought would happen. I don't know if I really understood the context behind that, but I would say it's probably 8 or 9 when I started okay, I'm going all in on this.
It's so crazy because as you say that, literally you're beating number 1s in the world, right? That's what you're doing. You're right there. You're beating the best. You're one of the best on the planet. It's insane. From a young age, you were the best.
No, it was yeah, I guess it's just one of those things. I mean, like you're saying, sometimes I do kind of have to like stop and think for like a second. I remember at one point, I don't know if I still have it, I found like a journal that I used to keep when I was like 7. And like I can barely read the writing, but I would like write down like, my tennis lessons or how I did that day. And it was just so funny looking back to like think, I'm like, wow, like I was a young girl, like 7 or 8 years old. And like I'm not the only one, but I'm like, sometimes you have to stop yourself and be like, wow, I really went out and said what I was going to do and I actually did it. It's crazy to like wrap your head around sometimes. I can't believe that, us taking tennis lessons after school and now I'm, where I am now.
It's amazing. Really.
Yeah, taking
Hey, I was out there too.
I know you were grinding. You were
Let the people know.
You were definitely you were, but you were the better basketball player. That's when you started playing basketball. And I remember I went to one summer camp and I sucked. And I was like, that was the one sport that I never like. I feel like I can hold my own in a lot of sports, but basketball, I was freaking awful. And I just was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. So you went that route and I went the tennis route.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah, so I really think there's so many directions that I could go here with the conversation, and I feel like again I could ask you a million questions. But my heart behind this podcast channel is really to lift each other up in encouragement and confidence. That what's building within us is far greater than the things that happen to us, and something that I admire so much about you as a person and athlete is really your mentality. And that's something that I want to dive into a little bit more later, but wanted to just mention it here because you faced some adversity early on in your career. And I know that you had major surgery just a few years ago. So could you just take us back to that time whenever you were really just emerging as a player and describe some of those injuries and setbacks?
Yeah, so I definitely have my fair share of being hurt. I think most athletes, I feel like at some point kind of goes through the dreaded agony of being injured, and some of them have surgeries and stuff like that. But I had my first like real, I had an ankle surgery when I was like pretty young. It wasn't anything big, but then I had a knee surgery when I want to say I was like, almost 28. So when I was like 19 maybe, I had a knee injury. Didn't really figure out what it was till probably over a year, which I would say was probably the worst part of it because you're just trying to play, but you're kind of hurt, you're kind of injured, going to see doctors in between, and they're kind of all telling you all these million different things. And it was just this long drawn out process where it was probably over a year before I finally just got surgery. It wasn't even that big of a surgery, but the fact that it was drawn out for so long, which I think is really common with people, with athletes that are kind of in that in-between stage, is the worst part. So I had the surgery, and then I was probably 19, so 5 years ago. So I was probably like 23, 24, I think, when I had my hip surgery, which was definitely the harder surgery to come back from. Again, before that, I was dealing with a lot of in between, like, my hip was kind of hurting. I was still able to play, but, I would get injured or hurt, after a couple matches. And again, didn't really know what I was doing, or I was kind of in between. Tried to rehab it before going into surgery. And then I had a labral repair. I think it was at the start of January 2017. And, it took me probably about a year before I really felt comfortable on court. Didn't play for like 6 months. So that surgery was definitely really tough as far as it was a more difficult surgery. So I think it affected me afterwards more, like my movement, the rest of my body, and just stuff like that. So definitely had my fair share of surgeries. And, each surgery too was also at a time where I would get to like my highest ranking. I remember, I think my knee, I got to like 150, and I was kind of, playing qualies of all the events. I'd have a couple good tournaments where I was beating good players. And then, I would kind of get hurt and have to stop for, a month or two or something like that. Same thing with my hip. I got up to like back inside the top 150 really quickly after the knee thing. And then that got hit with the hip injury. So it was kind of just frustrating because I was doing really well when I was healthy. And then I would just get hurt and kind of go back to square one where I didn't have a ranking, or I was playing with a special ranking and stuff like that. So, I mean, knock on wood, I've been pretty good the last, 3 years. So there's a lot going on with that, but that's basically the basis of it.
Yeah, for sure. That's a lot of getting back and then getting kind of knocked back down again and then getting right back up again and trying to keep pushing through that. So what were your goals then at that time, just getting back on the court? Was it to compete, or like where was your mind at in that way?
Yeah, so after my knee surgery, I was still pretty young. And honestly, I think it was good that, I mean, now I look back on it, and honestly, if I didn't have those events happen to me, like me specifically, I really don't think I would have been where I am now. And like, I really mean that, because my knee, with my knee, I had time to like, I was still pretty young. I was like 20, and I like wanted to have fun and go do stuff. And like, I was been playing tennis since I was, since we were taking lessons after school, since I was like 6, 7 years old. And it like, I was homeschooled most of my life, online school for the most part. So I just wanted to like be a kid, I think. And I think I got to do that during my knee surgery. There were times where I couldn't do much, but just some rehab. So I went to music festivals. I went out. I went with, I hung out with more of my friends, and I got to celebrate like holidays and like, have the summer to like go do fun things and stuff like that. So I think that was really important because it helped me grow up a lot and maybe kind of get some of that out of my system, which I felt like I needed to, now that I'm looking back. And it sounds a little cliche, but I really do. And after I kind of got through that, I don't know, I was just really motivated. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna get back to where I was like really fast. Like I really felt like I could, and I did, which was great. And then with my hip surgery was totally different. My hip surgery, I was so frustrated. I was like, again, why am I doing this? I was so defeated. I was defeated for like a week. I remember crying, like the doctor was like, I really think you should have surgery. And I was just like crying. And I was like, I don't know if I can do another 6 months of rehab, because the hardest part is the rehab. The rehab is the worst. Like people that have surgeries, or that have athletes who've had surgeries, know that like it's the most important part. I mean, I went like 5 days a week, but it was like every day just grinding through the stupidest things. And you're like, okay, how am I supposed, I can't even lift, my leg up right now. And I'm supposed to be running out on a tennis court in like 6 months. I was like, this is crazy. So that's definitely mentally the hardest part. But when I first found out I had to get the hip surgery again, after I was at like my highest ranking, I was like totally defeated. I was like, I don't know if I even want to do this. Honestly, I sat on like for like a week, I was like depressed. And then I don't really know like why, but maybe just my personality like kicked in, and my motivation was like, okay, I'm going to come out of this way better than I came into it. And I was able to do that. I can't really tell you why I thought that way, because I definitely was really upset for like a week, but I guess something clicked in me where I was like, okay, I'm going to take this head on, and I'm going to come out so much better, so much faster, so much stronger. And yeah, I was able, within a year after I started playing, I was, I think, around 100 and got to my highest ranking. And obviously a couple years after that, I'm here. So I guess it worked, whatever I told myself.
Yeah, can you go back and think about that a little harder and then let me know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what it was. Like I was not I was just like, this sucks. Like I was so upset. And then I don't know, I just got over it. I think I just let it all out. And then I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And when you're hurt, you get this thing called a special ranking. So you can kind of freeze your ranking at the time if you don't play for X amount of months. And you can use that ranking to enter in tournaments when you come back. So I did do that, which most people do if they take it. I think you have to be out for 6 months though. So you just kind of have to, it's for like bigger injuries when you're not going to be back, within 6 months. That it's a smart thing to do. And so I was also very smart with that. Like I took it, and I, scheduled my tournaments pretty well, and was able to do well in those tournaments when I came back, because that obviously helps get points and stuff like that. But again, it was one of those, the hip surgery was just like, that was totally mental. I feel like as far as overcoming, that was the hard one.
Yeah, for sure. And even with that too, when you're going through the rehab process where it's just kind of day in and day out, day in and day out, do you think that there was anything that really helped you just mentally to continue to push through? Like, you can have bad days and maybe emotions play into it, and or second guess things, or doubt. How was all of that just going through the process of it all coming back?
So I read a lot of books and a lot of like autobiographies or biographies on other athletes, which I always enjoy reading. I remember I really loved Drew Brees' book as an athlete as well, because he went through a major shoulder surgery. And somehow that was actually probably the book that probably had the most impact on me at the time. And I don't know if you've read it or not, but he's amazing. And he came back from like a total shoulder reconstruction, which now after being injured, I'm really into the body and like injuries and all that type of stuff. So he had like a total shoulder reconstruction, which, and that was before he was Drew Brees, that was before he was like, man. And he came back. I mean, he became Drew Brees after that, which is insane because that is a major surgery for a quarterback to be on his throwing arm. I mean, I was like in shock when I read that. And I remember being like, okay, look at what he's done. And like, I'm sitting here in this situation and my situation isn't even nearly as bad. And so I think that was a really, really important book that I read where I really like embraced that. Also got really into Kobe Bryant and like I read a couple other different athletes and but those are probably the main two where I took a lot from just the work that they put in and the injuries that they overcame and how they got better from them and they learned more about their bodies and stuff like that. So and not only did I overcome the injury, but I think I got so much better at knowing my body. I got in way better shape, found a really good trainer that I really loved, that really helped me, which was a major part. And I just think I'm so much more aware of how I feel, what's going on with my body. And I went out of my way to like really learn about that stuff. I would go see my physical therapist and, we'd be trying to work on something and I wouldn't kind of get it. And I would Google it later and like read about it and be like, okay, what are some cues I can tell myself to like get this, to do this correctly? Or like, what should I think about? So I did a lot of stuff like that really kind of helped. I would say I almost kind of threw myself into knowing more about my body. And that really gave me a much better understanding. So I feel like I get so much more out of my workouts or my rehab or my recovery. Like all that stuff is 1,000 times more than what I used to do, even when I was 20.
Yeah, it kind of translates into now how you've been so healthy, right? And staying on your fitness.
Yeah. So I found a really good trainer. I think it was the year after my surgery. So I did well to like come back, but I still was having issues with my hip a little bit. Like it was still kind of nagging a little bit. I was still getting soreness, which was kind of normal. It was just still not really strong enough. And I still have to maintain a lot of my stuff because of the surgery. I think that's one thing with surgeries is it doesn't really ever go away. And I think most athletes would say that they're always kind of maintaining, whatever their ailment is, whether it's their shoulder, their ankle, what their knee, something like that. So I found a really good trainer and he really, really helped me. And I committed to like doing everything that he said. Like I bought into what he was telling me and it really paid off. And I've said this before too, because people, ask what's the difference. And I really think a lot of it is even just like warm-ups. Like, I do like a 25-minute warm-up, almost every day. And it's the most monotonous, boring, horrible thing I have to put myself through because I hate warm-ups and it's so boring. But after doing them, like after doing that every single day for like a year, just think of how much better you're getting every single day just by doing something, just a little bit stronger, a little bit more mobility, a little bit more flexible. Doing that really, I think, has made a huge difference where I am today. Just doing stuff like that every single day, pretty much, for the last 2-3 years. That's a lot of work that you put in and it may seem silly or monotonous or something like that, but I think that made a huge, huge difference. And I think it's showing now,
100%. That's the Mamba mentality, right? Better every day.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just what is he? There's a bunch of whatever, Mamba mentality things that he says, but yeah, he just would always say, you do the best version of yourself every single day. And so I've tried to do that. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm the best version of myself every day because sometimes I'm not, but you try to, I think, just manage that the best you can. And for Kobe, like it didn't matter what it was. It could be on the court or it could be in the gym or it could be mentally. So I took that too really seriously. We're like, okay, maybe I had a really bad day on court, but like I can go and read something, or I can go look at film, or I can go in the gym and be a better version of myself there. And that's still helping me. I think sometimes I would always put all of it on how my practices were. But really, that's only one part of my whole day that it's nutrition, it's in the gym, it's watching video, it's, just doing other things that can go into what I'm doing. So I definitely got better at all those other little things. And I think that made my mentality on court, it was easier to maintain for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And that's something that I just love so much about you. I'm always just in awe of, your focus, your composure, the way that you fight. You can see it, right? And I'm always like, that's Mamba mentality. Like I just, when I watch, I get so excited, but it's true.
It's hard. It's really freaking hard. Like in the moment, it's so hard. But yeah, it's definitely something I've worked on. So I'm glad that you noticed. And like I've had other people tell me too. And my attitude was never my strong point. Like when I was growing up, not with you, but when I was, like 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, like that was definitely not my strong point. So it's so nice to hear you or other people say that, because that's not something I would hear 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that I think really, really stands out. And there's a match that I want to bring up to talk about this, and that's from Montreal last year. You were playing
Mhm.
on Jabeur, and it stands out to me for two reasons. One, it was on like way past my bedtime. I think it was like 10:30, 10:45. But also I think it just really captures your heart and determination, which, I think you can see every time you step out on the court. So you lost the first set 6-1. And then came back in the second set, went to tiebreaker there, won the tiebreaker. I think it was at that point. I just remember, because I remember you're like, just, when they take the video and they pan, over
Yeah.
to you, and you're like, let's go. And I think at that point is when I woke up glad, because I was just so hyped. I was like, let's go. But then you go on and you won the third set. I think it was 6-0. And that's just one example, I think, of these kind of matches. So I sit here and I kind of think about that. I'm like, what's going through your mind in those matches, right? Let's say you're down a set and you have to come back. Or are you just so focused that you're just like, all right, next game, next point kind of thing?
See, it's so funny because that's definitely one match I think from the last year that stands out in my mind. Probably the beating Svitolina in Australia, which was like my first big result, or even beating Azarenka first round. Those two, and Ons is like playing Ons Jabeur was another one where, again, like I remember at one point looking at my coach, because the match before that, I think I lost the first set in 19 minutes. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what's going on. And I think I lost the on. It was like the same amount of time. And I remember looking at my coach, David, and being like, I cannot believe I just lost a set in like less amount of time than yesterday. I'm like, it's unbelievable. Like the things that go through my mind, you laugh. You're constantly fighting yourself. Like I really am. Like I'm constantly, it's like the devil on one side and the angel on the other side of your shoulder. And you're like constantly talking and you're trying to stick to the angel on the one side. But the freaking devil is like always like, I can't believe you just missed that. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe that's happening. So I would say though, since I've been started to do better, which is probably like the last year, the year before that, I was doing better. I've come into my own more as like what my personality on court is. I think to go in depth in this, I was always like very confused as to like who I was on the tennis court. Okay. And it sounds weird, but like I really didn't know who I was, because I don't know if I just didn't understand. So like when I grew up, like people always said my attitude was really bad and stuff like that. Not really bad, but sometimes, it'd be like, oh, you don't look like you care, or you don't look like you want to try, or, you don't show enough emotion. So I feel like I was always pulled in like these different parts. And the Ons match kind of shows me like fighting through, like maybe where she was playing really well, because I wasn't playing my best, and me kind of being able to turn that match around. So it kind of shows, I feel like that match where maybe like some of my old Jessie was kind of showing at the beginning, but it was me like working through that and getting through that and then being like the best Jessie at the end. So it's weird to me, but that match, I definitely think at the beginning of the first, or like at the end of the first set, I was like, what the hell am I doing? What is going on? I cannot believe I'm playing this bad again. And then in the second set, you kind of reset a little bit. So, you're thinking, okay, I think at that point I was thinking, I'm just going to hold serve and maybe I'll get a chance to break her. And I was able to break her at like obviously the last second, most, opportune time. But I think it's just going from point to point and like literally letting things go. Tennis is so weird where it can change so quickly. And so you have to just let whatever bad point you just played, or maybe she played a good point, you just have to let it go and you have to move on. And you always have to think about the next point. And I think that was probably the match where I did that really, really well. I really think it's like fighting that devil on your shoulder that just keeps talking to you. It's like the negative comments. You just kind of have to, I think, acknowledge them, but then let them go, not hold on to them for the next game or 2 games or 3 games or 4 games where, then you lose the match and you're like, what the hell just happened,
Yeah, that translates, I feel like, into different areas of life too. And right, even going back to talking about Kobe's mindset, it's like whatever it is that you're doing, I think sometimes those kind of negative thoughts, it's always like, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? We kind of question ourselves or like can be so hard on ourselves. And it's like, hey, there's a next opportunity that's right here that we're missing.
Yeah, and that's so important. Sorry, that explanation was super long, but
No, I love it.
it's really though like the main thing. You just have to keep going forward and not just keep going forward, pay attention and like learn, like, okay, if we're talking about life, like that's why I love like sports in general, because it's literally like life lessons. You're always having to work through a problem and problem solve and not get caught up in your emotions. And I think that is so similar to life.
Yeah, it really is. Something else I just wanted to talk about in that regard is performance pressure. I mean, this is something that I experience in different ways, through basketball and other stuff. And I still struggle with it. I think that there's a lot of just different kind of influence, right, that wants to convince us one way or another, or we can get so caught up in certain things and, who we are is in the numbers or in the comparisons or in the outcomes or whatever it may be in sport or in work or social environments. But the truth is really that we're so much more than that. And it's kind of digging deep, right? And kind of keep going through because there's so much I think that we can learn about ourselves, right, in the process of everything that we're going through.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's one thing from my surgeries that I really took into account. And then reading these books about these athletes that have all been through the same thing is when you realize, okay, I'm not the only one. So you kind of lose this like selfish image that you have of yourself where like the victim mentality of oh my God, it's only me. And I lose that right away, like reading about these athletes, and you're like, oh my God, these athletes had way more difficult challenges than me. So you like look at that, and then you just try to come out of it. There's such a, like you said, there's just a much deeper meaning to like all of it. And I think Kobe was like Andrew Breeze, where he went and helped all the Hurricane Katrina victims. Kobe Bryant like loved to influence everybody in the game. And I think it's so much deeper. And I think after my surgeries, I started to understand that a little bit more. There is such a deeper meaning to all of the things that happen to us. There's always a way to come out of them better and stronger and a better person, but it's not easy. I feel like everything in society nowadays wants to drag you down, like wants to make you think that you should kind of fall into that victimhood. So like you said, like I think you just kind of have to like do you and just do what you believe and not listen to all the other crap, because I think even nowadays it's even harder to kind of distance yourself from that.
Yeah, it's really true. Something I always think about too is that there's really influence everywhere, but we still have the power to choose what it is that we consume. So it's just asking, it's just every day, what is it that you are consuming? And that goes, I think, in all ways, right? From like literally, of course, like all the content that's all over social media, but also how are you fueling your body, right? Your mind, your soul, like it's so important. And that's within our power to choose that.
Exactly. Like all these little habits that we do, like, is this making you better? And of course you don't have to be crazy and like, be so super strict that you're crazy and you can't function. I think there's always a balance. But for the most part, like, are you doing things to like better yourself every day? And it doesn't have to be every single thing. It's just like a couple things, it's not that difficult. So I think once you start realizing that, and you start like grasping that mentality, like, okay, I can do this to get a little bit better in this area today. And then I can do this. And then all of a sudden that just like builds. It's like building a tower, and the tower gets higher and higher and higher and higher. And it just, and then when you get to that level of maybe a pressure situation or any of these things, you can be like, okay, I did all this stuff to prepare. Like I'm ready. Like there's not any doubt, you know? And I think that's where it really pays off, because in that pressure situation, because you've already put so much work, just a little bit of work every single day into these areas, that you don't feel like you're going to break down. Like you can put more trust, I think, in yourself, knowing that you did all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's different whenever you are prepared. And like you said, it's those little things. And that's something I feel like even just in this conversation, it's like, kind of asking myself those questions too, because we do have the power each day, whatever it is, 20, 30 minutes of something to better ourselves. Over time, you're going to see that, right? You may not see it every single day, but it's over time you look back and you're like, wow, I just put in all of this work and it adds up, and now I'm here.
Exactly. And I think today we live in this world where we want this instant gratification of like everything that we do. Like you do things once and you want it to just be, done or be better, or like, I read about this really healthy thing I should be eating, but okay, I ate it for a week, but like I don't see an improvement. And it's like, well, like life is a grind. Like you have to embrace that grind. Like you have to, and I'm not saying you have to love it, because that's also something I think that people don't understand, is that they see this, they see me, okay, you're playing tennis, you're doing really well. Yeah, of course I love tennis, but I don't love having to work out every day, and I don't love having to go through rehab, and I don't love having to choose the healthier thing over the non-healthier thing, or being able to go out and not drink alcohol, or do like I don't want to do those things necessarily. Like I don't love to make those decisions, but you have to at some point kind of embrace this grind of like what you're doing is going to get you somewhere, and kind of just I honestly just embrace it and like live it. But I think sometimes people think that, oh yeah, I love every second of what I do. It's like, no, I don't. I definitely don't. It's not always that easy. Like it's not.
For sure, for sure. There's so much that you don't see. You're putting in so much work, just staying loyal to those commitments in the process of everything. And now it's crazy where you are right now, and you just keep going, and it's amazing. But it doesn't happen overnight, and two, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I mean, as long as you love it, at the end of the day, like it's so worth it. Those moments of winning a match, like I did in Montreal, like it's one moment, and it's not always going to be your moment, but when it is, like those are the moments that you do all that work for, and it feels so good. And it's hard in tennis because you win a match like that, and then next week I'm in Cincinnati and I lose a match where I was up, 5-2 in this third set. Like it swings so much in tennis, that I've learned too to really embrace the moments that you work for, because in tennis, it's good because you always have another week to do better. But at the same time, it sucks because you could have a great week and then it's like next week you're back in another tournament and it's like, okay, we'll just do it again. And you're like, okay, like I guess like I'm still recovering from 2 days ago, but I guess I'll go out here. And then you're like 5-all in the third set, like wanting to just totally throw in the towel, and you're mentally, that's where it gets so tough. But you have to just embrace those moments that you do well. Sorry, my dog's barking. I don't know.
That's okay. No, that's so good. And I know that we're running on time here. What's your encouragement for those who may have, a goal or dream or something, whether it's in sport or anything else? What would you say is the key in getting after it?
I would say that I feel like the thing that I always go back to is, it's always easy and it's always fun when things are going well. But when things are going bad, which they will go bad, I think managing the bad moments is where you can really pull through and see more success when you come out of managing the bad moments. And managing bad moments can be anything from managing a match that you're playing horrible in, and you're like, okay, how do I manage my emotions? I'm really frustrated today. how do I manage this the best? Or it could be at work where you're managing a bad day with a coworker, or your boss, or the office, or a project, or phone call, like, or anything. Literally, it could go to anything. But I just think managing emotions too in those bad moments is really all it is, because no one's going to be their best every single day. Whether you're on the tennis court, or on the basketball court, you're in the office, you're with your family, like, I think just the best thing you can tell yourself is when you're having those bad moments is, how do I manage this the best that I can, instead of just totally giving in, And sometimes, like, again, the Montreal match, you can come out on top. Like, you just try to manage it the best you can. And if it can turn around, or if it doesn't, you're like, okay, well, tomorrow's a new day. Like, what else can I do to get better? And I think you just have to do that the best you can, because it's always fun, and it's always easy to do things when you're doing well. And, I was actually reading a thing, I think it was on Ash Barty, and I think it was like a quote from her coach, that she was saying that last year, I mean, she won Wimbledon, she won like multiple tournaments, all this stuff. And she was like, I think I only played like 3 or 4 matches where I was playing like lights out of like 30. And you're sitting there going, this is the number one player in the world. And she's thinking she's not playing that good these 30 other matches. That's crazy, So I think too, like, I still do, but I used to love Ronda Rousey. So in her book, what she said her mom always told her was that you have to be the best in the world on your worst day. And I love that quote, because it's exactly, again, how I relate to it now, is managing those moments where you're not feeling well, or you're hurt, or you had a bad day, or everything's going wrong. Just managing that, I would say, is the most important.
Dang, I'm so inspired. No, that's so good. And I think that that's something that we can all learn from. We can all apply to whatever it is that we're doing, right? Whether you're top tennis player in the world, or if you just are just going about daily life and work and friends and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, we're never going to be always on, but we do have a choice in kind of how we manage everything. And again, it's mentality and it's approach.
Yeah.
So I think that's so good. Thank you so much. This has been amazing, and really, really so thankful for your time here. And I know that we didn't even get to chat about this, but not only, are you crushing it on the court, but also you're a wife, a dog mom, founder of Ready 24, which I always think if I apply before I go on the tennis court, it's going to make me better, and it doesn't. But we're getting there. But yeah, everything else, I mean, your nonprofit, like, on all of that, you're just a beautiful person, just thankful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make it sound like, I definitely, again, like, I'm preaching this stuff, but this is me preaching this stuff, is like me also telling myself, like, when I go to practice tomorrow and I'm like, gonna want to look at my coach and be like, I'm playing so freaking bad. like, trust me, those things happen. Like, this isn't like that. I never have these thoughts in my head. No, I'm basically 100%. Just kind of reinforcing these things into my head as I'm telling you. So it's honestly, it's great that we got to talk about this stuff, and I appreciate you and having these conversations with me. And that it's so cool that, like, I mean, you say like, I inspire you, like, that's so weird. I don't want to think that, but that's awesome. Like, I'm happy that I do. Again, like Kobe would say, like, it's all about inspiring the next, generation, or the next group of players. And I've learned that more and more as I've gotten older.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. No, you really do. And I think you impact, more people than you know. And so that's amazing. Yeah. Like he says too, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yeah,
and,
it is.
Yeah. So good. But thank you again so much. You're going to just keep crushing it, and I'll be here, cheering along the way, sending you all my emojis after all your matches.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.